it's Jess for Meyer Hatchery, and today I want to share a few quick tips on how to keep your chicken's feed nice and fresh. Let's get started. Depending on how big your flock is, you may have to store a good amount of chicken feed. Or maybe you got a really good deal and you want to store a lot of chicken feed. You want to be mindful when it comes to storing chicken feed. It's like our feed that we buy and we put in the refrigerator. If we stock up too much, it can go bad. Some chicken feeds last only a few months, if that. So you want to be really careful when you're buying a lot of chicken feed. Storing your chicken feed is really, really important. So the first thing is you want to think about where you're going to store all of your chicken feed. You want to store your chicken feed somewhere that is cool, dry, and has lots of really good ventilation. You want to make sure that you store your chicken feed out of the sunlight and away from any moisture. Moisture is bad when it comes to chicken feed. If you've ever accidentally gotten a little bit of moisture in your chicken feed, within 2 to 3 days, you're going to see what happens when your chicken feed gets wet. You also want to make sure where you're storing your chicken feed that is kept up and off the ground. So for us, we keep our chicken feed containers on pallets. You can also use pavers, anything like that that's going to keep your feed up and off the ground. If you think about the floor of a barn, it may look dry, but if you've ever sat something there and then had a rainy night like we've had here, there's so much moisture that builds underneath anything that's sitting on the floor. So having something underneath your containers is going to help with that ventilation. Speaking of containers, you want to choose a container that is airtight and that moisture and little critters cannot get into your feed. You also want to make sure that your container isn't too tight, if that makes sense, because if it's too tight and it doesn't have ventilation, then you can get moisture building up inside of your container, and again, bad things happen such as mold, and we don't want that. There's a lot of really great options out there. There are metal cans that you can use. There are food safe garbage cans that you can use, and even larger plastic containers that have been formulated so nothing can chew on the containers and the containers are nice and sealed. Another thing you want to think about is where your feed is. You want to keep it super clean. So every time you pull some feed out for your chickens and you feed your birds, when you put your food back in the container, anything that's left over after feeding, you want to sweep up the area around your feed. You don't want to make it easy for any mice or insects to get a quick treat off your chicken's feed. So keeping the area around your chicken feed clean is very important. The last thing you want to think about when you're storing especially large amounts of chicken feed is you want to make sure that whatever location you choose, that no rodents, insects, or other birds can get to your chicken's feed. So you want to look at the location, make sure that you seal the perimeter so no mice can get in or any birds can get in, and try to get to your chicken's feed. It's so important to keep your chicken's feed fresh and free of moisture because healthy feed is going to make healthy birds. Nothing is worse than opening a container and finding moldy food. Ugh, that's not good. Had it happen one time and it will never happen again. Hopefully I've given you some tips for storing your chicken's feed. I've left a link in the description below to some products to help you when storing your chicken feed, as well as some more information about the feed that we offer here at Meyer Hatchery. If you have any questions, be sure to let us know in the comments below. Well, it's time for me to go feed the chickens. I think they're pretty hungry.